7% of rough sleepers in the UK are located in the West Midlands. In Birmingham, there has been a 53% increase since 2015. The unprecedented rise of rough sleepers is the domino effect of welfare cuts and the chronic housing shortage in England. This is a huge problem which we as a community need to tackle together. In this documentary, we are going to look at the growing homelessness in Warwickshire, the organisations which are doing their part to help, and what the general public can do to support this movement. We decided to talk to the public and try to find out what they think about homelessness in Warwickshire, and if they're even aware that there's a problem.
How long have you worked in Warwickshire?
Getting on for about 20 years now.
Over 50 years.
Do you think that there's a growing homelessness problem
Yes.
in Warwickshire?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't really go into town very often, but from, gathering from what students say, yes, there is.
Do you have any suggestions for how us as a community could combat homelessness as a problem?
No, other than providing proper homes for people.
I think certainly that you could make people aware that this is a social issue and this is a problem, and certainly it doesn't hurt for young people, people of all ages really, but particularly young people who have a lot of time to go and help out in the kind of soup kitchens and and any of the community centres that are set up for drop-in centres for homeless people.
After talking to the public, we decided to do some research into organisations stationed in Leamington and what exactly they were doing to help combat this growing problem. One organisation we found is the Leamington Night Shelter, housed in the Radford Road Church. We're visiting the Leamington Night Shelter to interview some of the volunteers here to better understand the good work they're doing for the homeless community.
Do it as you're putting it down, that's easy.
If you could start with your name, maybe a bit about yourself.
My name's Margaret Moore, and I'm the joint coordinator of the Leamington Night Shelter with a chap called Chris Johnson. But we did start it up together, we were the founder members, and that was 8 years ago. It took us a whole year to start it up.
So over those 8 years, how have you seen things kind of change or develop in terms of Leamington specifically, or in general the UK?
I think we did notice a big difference when the when there was a change in the benefit system, and that was about 3 years ago now. And that was a very noticeable difference in terms of people were really hungry, actually. They didn't have money to buy food. Up until then, they could sort of more or less survive, but there's a more desperate air of need these days. I think a lot could be done. I mean, there's not many homes being built, like one-bedroom places or bed-sits as they used to be, now called studio apartments, but there's none of those places being built.
But if we kind of bring it down to this shelter, what does an average kind of night look like? What people do you engage with? Is it different every week, or?
We do the same format each week. The clients come in and they sign a register. They sign to say that they agree to be searched. We always provide a hot meal, meat, potatoes, vegetables, and a pudding. We've got crumble tonight, I think, and custard. And so they have a hot meal. We find that serving a hot meal is helpful in managing the shelter because we all feel better after we've eaten. And some people come in quite really hungry. They sit down and have a meal here, and you can see the change in the people.
Not a photo thing.
In terms of ratio, is it more men than women, or is it
definitely
many more?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Particularly on sleeping over. It's hardly ever more than 3 or 4 at the most. We might get up to anything between 1 and 2 and half a dozen coming in, and some of those will come in with other people, maybe with partners, temporary partners or whatever.
I'm Dee Godley. I still do work for the food bank in Southam, and at Christmas we had a load of mince pies spare, and I wondered, what we could do with them, and somebody suggested the night shelter here in Leamington. So my colleague and I, we brought them here about 2.5 years ago, and we're still here. So we started off sort of working in the kitchen, you know, preparing, setting up, getting everything ready, and then we took the SIA security course. So we now, once we finish in the kitchen, we go and we do sort of pat down of the clients. It's not only food they come for clothing that's, you know, very well supplied by sort of people, and toiletries is something else, you know, that is a great need for. Just because you live on the street doesn't mean to say that you want to be dirty, and 90% of the clients who come through here are, you know, sort of clean. And
what can we as the general public donate or do, even if it's the small things, to help this?
The public is very generous in giving stuff, and all of a sudden you'll have an influx of, you know, 50 coats or sort of whatever. I think it's talking to people like Margaret and Chris who run this organisation and get advice from them what is best, what they need. It's very distressing when you walk up a high street and see somebody in a doorway, you know, and people automatically assume that they're dropout, they're lazy, they're drug addicts, they're drunk and whatever, and that's not always
when there are literally thousands of reasons.
Absolutely.
Why. Is the fact that they are invisible to most people, right? And I mean, just from the point of view of, you know, pedestrians are walking along and their heads are at that level, and people sitting down, their heads are, you know, at this level. Yeah, just greeting people, acknowledging them. If you struck up a conversation with them, I tend not to ask too many questions because I think people can be intrusive. So general kind of things, what's your day like? You know, what's it like today? Ask people if there's anything that they would like, you know, if there's a drink or some food that they would like and whatever. And sometimes there are interesting answers to that one. And there are a few cafes in Leamington who actually kind of are quite open to the people on the streets.
Any more questions, guys?
No, I think we've got everything. That was brilliant.
Okay, right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That went really well. It was really nice to meet the people who do this kind of work. It was interesting how they all kind of had different motivations to be there. They'd all done stuff like this before, but also they had very different opinions about it in a way, which was kind of interesting. What I kind of realised was that obviously there's been a huge increase recently in the amount of people coming to shelters like this, but also they were saying about how the police now are kind of being retrained how to deal with this situation, being more sympathetic. Lots of people have different opinions about what you should do to help the homeless, but the main thing is do something. Donations are easy to make. Items such as clothes, towels, food, toys and hygiene products are all found around the house and are greatly appreciated. For you, this may mean a few pounds or a few hours of your time, but to homeless men and women, this can mean the world.